Let the bass kick.
What up? What up, what up, what up? What up, everybody? Welcome back to Last Cash. This is episode 8. I don't know what the date is. What is it? 10/12?
10/12/2020.
October 12th, 2020.
Yep.
I am Will. This is Marcus.
I'm Marcus still.
And this is Dr. Hoy joining us back once again, back from saving the babies.
Yep.
And welcome back to our friends, Shawn and Sara Sinclair.
Woo-hoo. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Have we had both of you on at the same time before? I know we've had each of you on individually multiple times. Okay.
Yeah, we were on pre-video
That's right.
over at Jay's place once.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. But you guys have a lot going on right now, as do we all. Man, let's start with, like Shawn. We just came off the MCO. Marcus and Dr. Hoy weren't here for me and Jay's little recap episode.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Hoy, you were thick in the mix. What were your thoughts on the MCO?
I thought the tea times ran really smooth, right on time.
They sure did.
Wonder why.
And that whole
how did
one's
that
tea
happen?
pad was nicely swept for everybody.
It looked great too.
No, I think it was. We had a much bigger turnout. You know, we had a much bigger room, so we had with much bigger turnout. You got questions after for payout and things like that. That's to be expected, and we had some drop ads type of situations and people knowing the rules, the PDGA
Guilty.
guidelines. Oh yeah, but you didn't question the PDGA guidelines on how much
I certainly
refund
did not.
you
I was
get
happy
back.
to get my $5 A's pull back.
Right,
for that.
right, exactly. Like for entry fees and and the reason we do that is to keep it fair for everybody because we make one exception for a pro, but then an AM we tell they can't get money back. That's not fair. So that's, but just when you have more people, you're going to run into more rules like that. But I thought I mainly saw the play at Cedar Hill, but I thought it played fairly. I know people were talking a lot about hole 6 and hole 18 and a defined fairway in hole 18. But I know there's a lot of people that 3'd it 2 out of 3 days, like Chris Clemens. He's a lefty. So I know we're still looking at kind of the averages on that, but I thought overall it ran smoothly.
Interesting that you mentioned the averages because hole 18 was the one of, if not the only holes that averaged exactly the same all 3 days, according to the
4.9, I think. Is what
yeah
it was.
4.9. So yeah, I mean, just like we've been saying, it's a tough 4 or it's a soft 5. I think there's definitely a couple trees on that fairway that could come out and create a more defined route, but that's something we're working on. But
I got a 4. I'm happy.
yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean,
And payout. We had to go over the payout rubric with a couple people to talk about where your entry fee goes and where your money goes and what the competitor pack value is. And, not everybody adds into the pro payout. It's like.
I think on that point, because of the hype around this being a national tour,
Right.
yeah.
so a lot of people came into this still thinking, this is an elite series name/event, not realizing this was more of a, hey, we want to still run something for the locals. We're gonna meet the requirements for an A tier,
Right.
and it's not gonna have $10,000-$12,000 added cash like an NT or a DGPT would. So I think people were looking at that, but also I don't think people understand, as Dr. Hoy just alluded to, that when it's the $2,000 minimum added cash and you guys went above and beyond that it spread out over the entire professional field, not just MPO, FPO. So
And that was what I mentioned on the episode that we did. Me and Jay did a little recap on. That was one thing I mentioned is that everybody that's taken the time to ask me a question about it and actually come to me and say, hey, what's up with this and blah, blah, blah. Why does this look like this? And it's like, well, I think everybody, it was announced as a national tour event. They expected the $10,000 just to MPO and FPO and then an additional 3 for all the age-protected pros, and they expected this and this. And a lot of them signed up initially when we opened registration at the beginning of the year before I lowered entry fees, because after the national tour pushed and we decided to roll everybody into the A tier, I lowered entry fees across the board. So it was less money going into payout, and then that made more people able to participate, which meant a bigger field to spread the money out across. And, you know, it is what it is. And everybody that took the time to ask me a question and gave me a chance to explain it was totally fine after I talked to them. But
So it was, I think it was $90. Is that what you lowered
yeah,
it
pro
to?
entry was 90.
Versus DGPTs, NTs are all 200 or more.
Yeah.
So, you know, that right there almost doubles the purse immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that did change, but I think it changed before anybody was looking at projected payout or looking at, because I mean,
we hadn't published
registration was open since February, so you know, it is what it is, and people are prone to misconception and false perceptions on stuff like that. Without
and shout
asking
out
questions.
to Whale Sachs, who gave $250 directly to the FPO payout.
Yep.
Awesome.
Cool.
Very
Tina,
cool.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
She did hook us up with $250 just for FPO. So that was very awesome. Yeah, Shawn, you were on event staff this year. So you've been involved with the Music City Open for a number of years now, but you were there with us in the trenches all 3 days, sun up to sundown. And you obviously have seen your fair share of large-scale events. Any particular impressions that you came away with?
First and foremost was the lack of spectators.
Yeah, it's weird.
That was a little weird.
Yeah.
And I was super impressed with the staff and people that respected that and, you know, didn't come out and try and, you know, barge in and just make things uncomfortable for everybody. I think we didn't have any issues that I was aware of, so that was fantastic. I thought the course played really well for MPO. FPO might have been a twinge hard on a couple of places. Can make some tweaks there. But Dr. Hoy alluded to people complaining about hole 6. The deal with hole 6 is, in my opinion, the green. If that green was flat and didn't have the drop off, I think you'd see a lot more lower scores. A whole bunch of people I watched ended up in that 50 to 60 foot range and then just laid up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because there's such a punishing green behind that. You know, so if it was, I'm not saying we're going to go out and build a retaining wall, because I think that's part of the allure of that hole is that drop off behind it. But if it was dead flat, guys and gals will be running at that hole all day long, and you probably wouldn't see the people going up over the top either, you know, trying their luck, because you can just get a little forehand or even a turnover to get within 50, 60 feet of that hole.
Do you remember what the average score was on that hole?
It was slightly over par.
Yeah,
I can pull it up.
wasn't terrible. I think it was like a 3.25, something like that, 3.3.
Where did that say this?
Hole 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3.3.
Yep, there you go, 3.3. Yeah, and the interesting part is like, oh, hey, what if we put a pin in between the short pin and the long pin over on that side, but you move it up 25, 30 feet. Now the green is flat, and it's going to drop down to a 2.25. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to get it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
and it averaged lower as the tournament went on. I think on day 3 it averaged 3.2.
And you know, I can't blame the guys and gals. They're aggressive. They're wanting to birdie everything. You know, they're going to get out there and try and figure out a way to give themselves a putt on every single hole. And sometimes that doesn't work.
You know, I mean, an admirable concept of course design that I think people speak fondly of most of the time is like, is there any kind of consideration for risk reward? And that hole has it in spades. I mean, you can try and go over the top and play the big shot and try and hope it drops through the canopy somewhere close to the pin. You know, but I think round 1 it was really interesting to see because 3 out of 4 people on the chase card or on the feature card for Ace Run Pro went for the over the top play, and the only one that was successful was Garrett, and Clemens went with a easy low play, skip around the bend, and just didn't break a sweat getting his 3. And there was 2 other people on that card that worked really, really hard to get their par. You know what I mean?
I believe round 2 when we were doing the commentary, did Nate Perkins? Someone put it like 5 feet from the basket,
Yeah.
and it didn't
Yeah.
look like it was going to be that close when it dropped in. I was like, oh, that's way down the hill, but he was like simple tap in.
Yeah, I think everybody on the second card that we did the commentating for threw forehand over the top.
Yeah.
And I think Nate Perkins
I think it was Nate, yeah.
he was literally in that little square of cedar trees on the ground.
And that's an impressive. I mean, is it? I mean, impressive or some combination of impressive and fortunate, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because it's. I mean, those cedars are so thick up top. I mean, even if you get one in the right placement, it's hard to fall down straight.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't it on that hole that Austin Hannum threw a disc, and maybe it wasn't that hole, but basically to say that the cedars on Cedar Hill are so grabby that they spent an hour trying to throw another disc up top to get his disc back. Maybe it was hole 1.
Oh yeah, hole 2 by
Or
the
hole
pin.
2, okay.
Yeah.
And ended up getting that disc stuck, and
Yeah.
only got one back out of the 2 that were stuck in there. So, yeah, I don't know if it's worth it, but it's exciting for sure.
I mean, all the events that I've been to in Nashville, I think there's only been less than 5 for sure that have ever had the 2-meter rule in effect, and they were all at Cedar Hill.
Oh yeah.
That makes sense.
I thought there was more discussion on the par for hole 1. There's only 2 people, I think, the whole weekend that got a 2 on the MPO field.
Both lefties, right?
No, one was Connor
Reed.
Indy,
Yeah, yeah.
and one was Reed for
Reed,
Skura.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I think Connor hit a long. I mean, they both hit a long putt, but it was averaging 3.53, and it was a par 3 for
I
the
think-
MPO field.
I'm willing to say I think there were some things that could be adjusted in the par structure based on our observations from this year. Hole 9, for one, I mean, it played as a 3 for FPO for most of the top part of the field. And we had it as a 4 because of how deep the MPO pin was.
Mm-hmm.
And we usually try to follow that philosophy of try to keep par structure the same so it's less confusing and,
Yep.
you know, there's less checking that has to be done on what's going on.
Although I did notice that USDGC had different pars.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not uncommon. It's just it's a stylistic thing almost that we've kind of chosen
Yeah.
to go with in most situations, and it's basically just the main motivation there is just ease of use. But
Yeah.
What was 15 a 4 or a 5?
15 was a
15 was a 4.11, and hole 9 was a 3.8.
For the FPO, did that play as a 4 or a 5?
I believe it.
Averaged a 5 on the final day. Hole 15.
Not the average,
Yeah.
but what was actually in the caddy book.
Let's see here.
Was it a par
Was it
4? Is it par 4?
Yeah, I thought
Par
it was a
4.
4.
So that's kind of what USDGC did. There was a handful of holes that they kept the same, as the hole was no different tee, no different pin, but it was a par 5 for the women and a par 4 for the men. And I almost feel like 15 could play that way.
Yeah, for sure. 10 was another one that played a little weird based on the alternate tee pads that each division played.
Yeah, that one I think is pushing it
Yeah.
for a par 3 for the men, and I know it played pretty well over par.
Yeah.
But what do? You bring in a brand new tee in between the short and the long? Because if you move the MPO up to that
The
shorter
short,
pin, and it's going to be 80% twos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It played fantastic for the FPO.
Yeah. And Cedar Hill, for many reasons, it's very unique, and it's got its own little quirks that make it kind of difficult to use for a wide variety of skill levels. So it's like, it's always a walking a tightrope when you have an event there that has all divisions, because if you make it fair and challenging for the top of the field,
It's not going to.
it's going to be
others.
punishing for the AMs and stuff. So I am grateful for the opportunity to have such a just top-heavy pro field on both the men's and the women's side, and really get some accurate data spread over 3 days of play there, because that's something that, it's been kind of polarizing. People have different opinions on how it would play for the top part of our professional athletes, and now we actually have something to point to, and we can use that moving forward. So it's good stuff.
And we had close battles in each division.
It was
NPO
tight.
and FPO.
Yeah.
Many divisions actually across the whole board.
A couple of those holes that were really polarizing ended up being the separators too. You know, like you look at 18 and 6 and stuff like that. That was, and I think Cedar Hill is at least maybe not. I don't know if a lot of people would call it fair, but it's at least even in that you have some really challenging holes, but you have some opportunities to score.
Yeah.
But even on those whatever you might call a gimme holes, it's there's plenty of stuff that could happen to keep you from getting to the green. So it's challenging that way. Sara, you've got a lot going on.
I do.
You're alive.
Just keep adding. I am alive.
That's awesome.
That's my top priority.
Yeah.
Stay alive.
And you're here smiling.
Yes.
You guys got to
Never
go out
stop
for a nice
smiling.
dinner tonight.
Yeah. Yep.
Rejoining the world of the living. It's amazing.
Oh my God, I know.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad that I was glad to have you at the MCO. I mean, even just caddying. I was obviously bummed to see that you had to drop out because I know what a struggle you've been going through with the prednisone reaction. For anybody that's not familiar, you were basically like a steroid zombie because of your IV infection that you had.
Yes, well, Dr. Hoy can attest to this. I keep telling people I'm not crazy, and this has happened to other people. But very long story short, we had an overgrown flower bed in the back of our house. We just bought this house a little bit over a year ago, so we're still doing tons of things there. And I was like, you know what? This weekend I'm going to go out and just eradicate all of the stuff that's in there. There's just like overgrown vines and weeds and all sorts of stuff. So I go out. It's like 95 degrees, of course. I go out there in a tank top and shorts and gloves, and I'm just like ripping stuff out. I have no idea what it is. But I know it's not poison ivy because I'm extremely aware of it, just being reactive to it and it being all over disc golf courses. And I know it wasn't that. So a few days later, I start getting what looks like a poison ivy rash all over my body. And I get poison ivy every summer, but I was like, this probably I need to go to the doctor for. So they give me a steroid injection and then 3 weeks worth of prednisone pills. And I've always taken, like, I've had little injuries before where they've given me steroid packs and it's like a week long or whatever. And I felt like superwoman. I was like, yes, I'm going to be on these pills again. This is awesome. Yeah. And then like 3 days after I start taking them, I just start feeling like totally nuts, like depressed and just kind of like withdrawn, and then also getting no sleep, having tons of stomach issues, being really hungry, but then when I eat just feeling super nauseated. And I experienced a week of this and was like, this can't be right, like how is this happening to me? So I Google this thing and I'm like, prednisone side effects, like what's normal, what's not. And it's just like checking boxes. It's like, okay, you might get these side effects, and I'm like, yep. And then I reach out to Dr. Hoy and a couple other medical professional friends of mine, and they're like, yeah, prednisone is no joke. Like, I was on 60 milligrams for the first week, and apparently that's like pretty high dosage, and I had no idea. I wasn't taking it with a meal because the nurse practitioner who gave it to me didn't tell me that, and I wasn't taking it early enough in the day, so it was affecting my sleep. So I was like up all night basically. I was super productive, but I was getting no sleep. So with all the other side effects, also getting no sleep, and I'm like someone who highly prioritizes sleep every night. Yeah, I made the call a few days before MCO. I was like, I can't even sleep, or really, I couldn't drive a car. I didn't feel comfortable like driving. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to even make a putt. And so we went out to Cedar Hill and filmed one of our Sinclair disc golf rounds, and I was like, I'm not even sure I can get through this entire round. Let's play doubles to make it a little bit faster. So we did that. And the first putt, I just felt like jelly. I was like, yeah, I can compete. So I ended up dropping out of MCO, and then unfortunately Jonesboro and the Women's National Championship, which I'm really, really upset about that one. Obviously, it being the first year that the entire field of women were playing Winthrop. But I know that I would not have been mentally and physically prepared to play those events. And I didn't want to waste my PTO, so.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Adult concerns also
yes.
Also relevant.
That's right.
Good. I mean, you're in excellent physical condition too. So I mean, the fact that kicked you through the dirt so hard, I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and the lasting side effect that I have, because apparently there's withdrawal symptoms too, which I'm kind of experiencing. But the last couple side effects are just like, again, trouble sleeping, and then high heart rate. So I've been doing more running now that I can do those things again, and my heart rate is like through the roof, so I need to watch that. But I'm starting to feel more normal, and we actually played Cane Ridge last weekend,
Nice.
and it felt better. So
That's good news. And you
Yeah.
guys have been generating a lot of content, and a little mention and segue there into something you guys have just recently started up, but the Sinclair Disc Golf YouTube channel.
yeah.
You've been doing a lot of different kinds of online content for some time now as a part of the Get Gritty Nutrition program that you've started up, and
Yep.
you've kind of started coaching people through a nutrition program online as your side hustle, and that's been really cool to watch, and because you've experienced a huge transformation over the last couple of years, and
Yeah.
I see that you're just highly motivated to help share that kind of that resource and the information that you gain from that with other people.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about that. I mean, it looks like by all indications that you're being incredibly successful with
Thank
it.
you.
So.
Well, I mean, we could have an entire podcast episode about this, but yeah. So basically, I tried like all the diets. I've been overweight my entire life since I was like 6 years old, but I've also been an athlete my entire life, and I just could never get the nutrition part of it down. And so I joined this group through my gym last May, and we were tracking macronutrients, which is carbs, fat, and protein. And long story short, I lost like 30 to 40 pounds and was just introduced to this entirely new way of flexible eating, which is like I can eat ice cream and pizza, but also continue to lose weight in a healthy, sustainable way. And I'm just like, man, this needs to be out there more. People, and of course, there's tons of people who know about this already, but I feel like in the disc golf world, not really. And I know so many women that struggle with the same issues that I do and that I struggled with. So I was like, I'm really passionate about this, and I feel like not enough people know about it. And so I decided to get my nutrition coach certification this past May, and started Get Gritty Nutrition, and I've done 4 nutrition group programs and a couple like one-on-one coaching, and I've got a self-guided program, and so it's been extremely fulfilling just helping people reach their goals in like a super healthy way where you're not starving yourself and you're not doing like hours of cardio and you're not giving up like an entire food group. It's been awesome. A lot of work, but
Yeah, it sounds like that alone would be worth having a prednisone side effect that makes you lose sleep, because it sounds like that takes up a lot of time.
Well, that's what I was doing when I wasn't sleeping. That's why I've been generating so much content.
Mm-hmm.
At nighttime, I'm up for like 4 or 5 hours a night, and I'm just like, all right, what videos and graphics can I make now? So that's
Nice.
all I was doing in the middle of the night for weeks.
Yeah.
And now the YouTube channel, and you guys are doing
Yes.
some really fun, different kinds of stuff, just rounds that you guys are playing at different area courses. You mentioned you recently had Austin and Katrina over to play your course while they were in town for MCO. Tell us a little bit about that, because I've played your course, at least most of it, and I mean it's really fun and interesting and an excellent use of space, but some really tricky, I mean, Shawn Sinclair type shots on that course.
Yeah.
So,
Very Sinclairian.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. You can see his signature written throughout the course. But yeah, what was that like? I mean, and also too with Austin and Kat traveling so much this year, I'm sure they're being extra cautious about the pandemic and COVID and stuff. And you were going through your own health stuff while they were there. So was that like, were they in your driveway in their car the entire week, or did you guys get to hang out?
No, I mean, we've had their RV and truck at our house for
Months?
a couple months now, 6 weeks or so.
Okay.
But they were actually like the first people that I saw outside of Shawn after I started having the health issues, and I was like, I don't know about this, as I was kind of like withdrawn, and I was like, I want to just go in my room and binge watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like by myself. But
Therapy.
but I mean, Katrina and I are really good friends, and she's we talk about a lot of deep things, so it was like really good. It ended up being like a really positive thing to have her there and kind of like help me through what I was going through. So
Yeah.
But they have their RV that they travel with and their truck, and then Katrina actually has a little SUV, and on their way up to Vermont, Maple Hill, they dropped the RV off at our place and Austin's truck, and then took her car and
That's wise.
yeah, and they did the hotel thing because Vermont was being really particular. Everybody had to quarantine for 14 days before, and so they dropped that off there, and then came back through for MCO, and we
Jonesboro.
Jonesboro. We hook them up with power, and they just hang out in their RV and come in and
The dogs
shower.
bark at
And
them every single time they come in the door. It just like without fail. It's like, yes, they've been here for a week now. Like they're the same people.
Yeah, they're still excited though. You're everybody's friends to
Yeah.
your dogs,
Yeah.
and they're always excited.
I feel
to
like
see
one of
them.
your
Yeah.
dogs just had a birthday.
Coltrane did, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
I
thanks for
saw
remembering
that like celebration.
I like to make a big deal out of their birthdays because I'm a psycho.
No,
What do
just
they
a dog
get?
mom.
What does a dog get? Like dog cake? Is that?
Yeah, so we've got
Oh,
this
yeah.
They have
we've
those.
got this dog
Dog
like a
cake, huh?
super high-end doggy bakery
Uh-huh.
in Mount Juliet, and so like if you didn't see the sign on the door, you'd walk in and be like, oh, it's a bakery. Like
Yeah.
it looks like real people food. But every year I get them this like little bone-shaped cake. and
Yeah,
they
I
all
saw
share
that.
it. Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
was like, man.
But anyway,
Fancy.
YouTube channel.
Well,
Yeah.
we with Cat and Austin, we had asked them if they would do a video, and they agreed. And then the day after MCO, I think it poured rain.
All the way up to, and then immediately
Yep.
after.
Yeah. So they went on their way to Jonesboro, and then on their way back, they had a day and worked out. The sun came out, and I set up a little 3-hole loop, and we had just kind of come up with the idea that we'd have them tee off, tell us their thought process and what they were throwing, and then as we were going down the fairway, Sara would do like a little interview and ask them a question, get more insight on them, non disc golf related stuff, and they'd throw their shots, finish out the hole, and then we repeated it 2 more times. And I can say, after playing that course a ton, and you attesting to that course, and I gave them 2 par 4s and a tunnel par 3, and they both easily birdied all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing.
Spoiler alert.
They're on a different level.
Cat went 3 down, didn't she?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man.
It was outrageous.
Yeah.
I was like, I have goals. I have more goals
Yeah.
now.
I was hungry and tired by the
What
time I
got
got
you
through like
guys-
10 holes.
And the setting that channel up, were you guys like thinking about doing this for a while, or? Because I remember you posted something like, "We're about to do a project. Can anyone guess what it is?" Or I was like,
I don't even know if that was this project. There's so many things.
Uh-oh.
So
Well,
much room for activities.
any other
Yeah.
projects we need to drop first exclusive on the
So-
There's some stuff on the horizon.
Ever since I've been traveling for disc golf with PDGA, it's going to be going on 4 years now, I have access and close contact with the best players at the best courses, the best tournaments, and I watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah.
Like a
And-
lot.
Like a lot
Like
of disc
too
golfers
much.
do.
Yep,
Too much.
Yep. But not just disc golf, all kinds of
Oh, yeah.
crazy stuff. And I see these people doing things, and one of them is this couple. They're actually from Tennessee, and all they do is go around and they play miniature golf. That's all they do, and that is now their full-time job. They make a living traveling the entire United States just playing miniature golf. And there's no high-end filming, editing. They literally are just holding the camera, and here we are at Myrtle Beach, blah, 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 blah. All right, you go. Putt, putt, putt. And then they put up the score, move on to hole 2. And that's it.
Yeah.
And you said they're not that good, too, right? They're just kind of average.
They're just kind of playing,
Just having fun.
and they have
See, saying there's a chance.
Yeah. It's like, we have an idea.
and they have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of followers and millions of views, and that's literally their day job. That's all they do is play miniature golf.
Yeah.
And there's tons of just weird, obscure stuff, and I've just always had this idea of wanting to start a channel and just
Yeah.
kind of do everything disc golf, but the main focus is just the 2 of us go play around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
it's not necessarily going to be 1 versus 1. Like, we played a doubles round, got a couple of more ideas. Like, we love to play speed golf, and so I want to go out and Like she'll chase me around or I'll chase her around, and one of us will just go and play a speed round of golf
Yeah.
Nice.
and post that. More stuff like we did with Kat and Austin.
A baby cane we just did.
Yeah, we just did baby cane.
Like a birdie or die kind of.
Oh.
Well, it was a little bit different than that, but more or less like a birdies or nothing kind of round.
Yeah, just everything disc golf, which is why we called it Sinclair disc golf. Didn't want to limit it. Initially we were going to is it going to be Shawn and Sara play disc golf? But just settled on Sinclair disc golf because it'll encompass anything and everything. Maybe there'll be some how-tos, lessons, whatever.
Well, you guys, you have a lot of interests outside of disc golf too that you guys are both pursuing very actively, and particularly in the fitness world. And to kind of step backward a little bit to the Get Gritty stuff, that's, I think, something that can and I can't help but hope will be soon kind of more emphasized within the world of disc golf, because obviously you've seen over the last couple years more of a focus on athleticism within the disc golf world, with Disc Golf Strong and a lot of social media showing training and exercise routines that you can do to make yourself more functional and high performance at disc golf. And nutrition is a huge part of that. I mean, anybody that has played competitively, especially if you're traveling to a tournament, they always talk about how hard it is to plan and execute like proper nutrition when you're playing a multi-day event, and especially if you have more than one round on one day and stuff. So, I know that you and Katrina did a little bit of fitness content.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if that was for the Sinclair channel or for the Get Gritty stuff. I think it was the Get Gritty stuff.
I think we just posted it to Instagram.
There you go.
She's pretty modest, so I have to every picture and video I take of her, I'm like, is it okay to post this? Because I'm all out there. I don't really care. Judge me or whatever. But she's more modest than I am, and rightly so, because she's got 100 times the number of followers than I do, and has to be a little bit more careful. But no, I think it's super important that I actually have personal experience with that in Nashville playing Cedar Hill. So right before, I was actually playing Barfield, the Barfield Open last summer, and there was a couple tournaments where it was 95 degrees in Nashville, and I was just feeling nauseated. I was drinking tons of water. I'd had a lot of water a couple days leading up to the events. And halfway through, I would just get completely de-energized to the point where I would have to lay down and feel like I was going to drop out of the tournament. So that happened at Barfield. And then that week, I actually joined that nutrition group at my gym and was eating the adequate number of calories and adequate carbs that I should have been, because leading up to that, I was like, I need to eat low carb. And my body, I've found out, really loves carbs. I thrive, and I'm so physically active. I mean, I'm running 4 or 5 days a week, and then doing lifting a few days a week too. My body needs carbs, and so I played a Cedar Hill event the very next weekend, and had just been eating adequately to fuel my body. And I remember bringing a high protein lunch or something, and I felt completely different. I had energy to fuel myself for the entire round. It was both events were 2 rounds, and I felt like $1,000,000 from weekend to weekend.
Yeah, I remember that event, the Mike Lane Classic.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah.
Sitting up there at
we
Tournament
talked
Central,
about your lunch, and we were
you're
like,
yeah,
I
gotta
remember
eat this
exactly
whole
what
thing.
it was. Yeah,
And
it was
huge bowl of
chickpeas
stuff,
and feta cheese and all this stuff all mixed in, and I was like, I feel so good.
And it was really hot there. It was May 25th, or
Yeah.
something, Memorial Day that year. So.
But I can't imagine how many people are not properly fueling their bodies and just not feeling the energy that they should, because they're like, oh, so and so says I need to eat low carb. Well, maybe that doesn't suit your body very well, or you're not having enough. You're not fueling your body well enough for these long, hot rounds. So.
Or how many people the last 3 holes, they mess up, they blow up the last 2 to 3 holes they play, and their round is
sugar
shot.
tanks or
Yeah. And just not eating the right snacks, spiking your blood sugar, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and that's, I mean, with as much of a craze as the low carb diet became, or in many variations of it, I've heard tons of stories about people that have had just really scary, abysmal results from trying to maintain that for extended periods of time.
yeah, it's not very sustainable for long periods.
It just,
When you eliminate certain food groups or just types of food, it's that usually doesn't end up well.
entirely.
Like-
Yeah. Like
Yep.
that just seems
You
a
gotta
little
balance
excessive.
The
it,
binge
but-
cycle, and then you gain it all back.
Yeah.
and,
Salty nuts, you know, some raisins, craisins.
Yeah.
Get a little trail
Trail
mix
mix
out there.
going, yeah.
Yep. Throw a little M&Ms
What about
in
some
there.
pickle juice?
Is that the
Prevent
tip of the week?
cramps.
I'll pass on that.
I do love pickles.
I like pickles, but
And
not the
I'll
juice
look
so
around
much.
the living room and
I
make
like
sure my wife's
spicy
not in the
pickles.
room, and I'll take a little sip of the
Is that the tip of the week?
No, Sonic had a pickle juice slushy.
pickle juice, folks.
Had a
Ugh.
pickle juice
Pineapple.
slushy. Like
I heard about that.
there's
I heard
You
it
ever
was
had a
not
pickleback?
good.
Pickleback.
Yeah.
What's
You
Like a
take a
pickleback?
shot of whiskey and you follow it with a shot of pickle juice.
That's all right.
I don't think that's
Not
what-
I'm gonna
that.
change your life next episode.
I'll leave
okay?
that.
Yeah, no.
Leave that to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But no,
That's like your word
I
for
usually
it.
do like a tip of the week. So is that the tip of the week? Make sure to bring some snacks for the end of the round. Don't crash.
Yeah. Actually, I'm always trying to get different topics for this weekly nutrition email that I put out. If you want to sign up for it, getgrittynutrition.com. Check it out. I have tons and tons of content, but yeah, someone asked like, what are the best snacks to keep your energy going? That would be the perfect topic especially for disc golf, for like a 3 or 4 hour round. Like, what do you eat?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What about Miracle Whip versus mayonnaise? I remember hearing something about that on
We
some
talked
podcast.
about that on the PDJ radio podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in the doctor's lounge at work, they took out of the mayonnaise and they put in Miracle Whip, and people got up in arms. Like that's the biggest news from the hospital, and then they had
Oh
to
my
change
gosh.
back and get mayonnaise because people
Were you at Halloween at Dogwood for the mayo donuts?
mayo donuts. No,
Yeah.
What?
Oh God, what
There-
is that?
What is that?
There was like somebody had set donuts out on one of the holes, and like a couple different there was multiple holes that had like treats and stuff like that on them. And I want to say
You always gotta wonder about
I want to
treats
say
at
it was
Dogwood,
Elise Kirby that filled these donuts with mayo.
Ew.
And I
Or
heard
like a cream-filled center donut, but it's
I got reviews of those donuts from several people after they
joke?
came back off
like
the turn.
some were mayonnaise filled.
So
and
yeah,
some-
some random ones on the tray were filled with mayo. And then there was toothpaste on Oreos. They did that one too.
I'd probably eat that.
A couple
Toothpaste-
people were like, it was disgusting. A couple people were like, I don't know, I just swallowed it.
well, there was
Minty
somebody.
fresh breath.
There was somebody
They call that
talking
mint-
about
mint
a
Oreos.
flavor of
Yeah.
either ice cream or shaved ice that was one of the most popular flavors. It was orange juice and toothpaste. This is a real flavor. Like
Oh,
it's
thank
some, like I don't know.
That's like the worst thing about mornings.
It's something
Brushing your teeth
crazy.
and
I
then
don't know.
drinking orange
That's-
juice. It's like
Yeah.
the first drink is going to be bad.
Yeah, that's
I don't know where we just went right now.
Yeah, we went
it's,
off.
it's
Went off
food.
So back
food
to
taste.
the actual nutrition
Yeah.
aspect of it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I was
Yes,
going to
really
say
did.
that it's kind of the natural progression. You know, we're not playing 2-hour rounds on par 54 anymore. I mean, back when I was playing in the late 90s, early 2000s, people would show up, get out of their car 30 minutes before the round, walk over with the soda, Mountain Dew, and a donut, go straight to their hole. First shot they throw. Wasn't everybody, you know, but for the most part, that was kind of the mentality. Like, hey, disc golf tournament, there's all my buddies. Yeah, yeah, yeah. At lunch, eat more garbage, and that's not sustainable, and that's not what's going to propel you to the next level. You
For
know,
sure.
We're seeing that where now more and more athletes are in, and they're working out, they're stretching and doing stuff beforehand. All, like you said, all the disc golf strong. So the nutrition is the next step and the next level that you have to go. If you look at all these other sports, you know, they have nutrition scientists on board. You know, the Tour de France, each team has a chef and a nutrition consultant, and they make food specific to the length of the race, each individual person's needs, and they just travel with the tour, and that's all they do.
Yeah.
I have talked to Seth, and I was like, if I do have some time in the winter, that I was thinking about putting together some sort of like disc golf or traveling disc golf specific type nutrition plan, because I mean that's the hardest part about it is I'm in a good position because I work from home. My kitchen is like 4 feet from me. I literally eat all day. Like I love food, and so I kind of work my nutrition plan so that I'm eating like every 1 to 2 hours because I love to eat, and our dishes just we can't stay on top of them because I eat so much food so frequently. But when you're on the road, and we've experienced this too, like 10, 14 days at a time and you're staying in a hotel room, yeah, things get a lot harder and you do just kind of like revert back to like the Taco Bell or the Burger King, and that stuff's
whatever's easy. Like,
yeah, and that stuff's totally fine, but there's also like better choices that you can make at each of those restaurants, and just kind of knowing what to order and how to balance it with everything else that you're eating. So I think there's a good opportunity to help some of the full-time disc golfers that are on the road or like living out of an RV and don't have access to full kitchens, things like that, which I think is a really big challenge for a lot of people.
Well, interesting that you bring it up. I maybe I'll speak it into existence. Maybe you guys have already talked about it. But speaking of next logical steps, you and Seth doing some kind of a partnership, like in a program, that seems to make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah,
that feels logical.
I've kind of like skirted around the idea with him a little bit, but at this point, because I have a full-time job, the Get Gritty stuff unfortunately has to be my side gig, and I don't have a whole lot of extra time with all the other initiatives that I'm kind of taking on simultaneously. But if I were able to make this a full-time job, I would love to do something more with it like that for sure.
Yeah, or even, because you're making so many different plans and programs and stuff like that, you're traveling disc golf. If there's some way for you and him to kind of link up, even if you're not having to add more to your plate or something, just to package it together and brand it together, I think would make a lot of sense. And you guys are both like two of my favorite people. So, because Seth's awesome.
He's super cool.
Dude,
yeah.
He is so positive and just
he is.
like upbeat and constantly encouraging. And I've met him and hung out with him for one MCO, and he just randomly will send me encouraging videos and texts and stuff like that. He's just a rad dude. And let's see here. How long have we been in here? About 41 minutes.
I was thinking, COVID, man, he really got affected. Everybody got affected by that, but he was, set up to go to all the majors and all the Disc Golf Pro Tour and have his setup. And I know he's been trying to do some videos with, showing people what to do, like after round stretching and things like that. But
I loved having him here at MCO in 2019, and we talked about him coming out again this year. I think he would have probably been here had the NT not pushed, and we had several conversations about what we could do to make it possible for him to make the trip, and it was just, this wasn't going to make sense expense-wise and travel-wise for him, and that's unfortunate because I feel like his presence at that kind of event, at that scale of event, just adds a lot of value.
Absolutely.
And legitimacy. And, and plus, the people that are touring and that are competing at these big events consistently, they're used to seeing him now. And he's working with so many of them throughout the year on their fitness programs. So, it's awesome to see that, because that's one of those things, and we've talked about this extensively on the podcast, but like the concentration and the focus on fitness and nutrition and stuff like that, that's a big part of, our next steps toward legitimacy and acceptance as a mainstream sport, is having, more actual athletes. It's becoming more common now where you're seeing like the people playing at the top level are, their social media is filled with like examples of what they're doing fitness wise outside of on the course. So, logical transitions. I'm going to push pause for just a second, take a quick break so everybody has a chance to go to the bathroom and get a drink. And also because we have some clips that I want to insert. We usually do this on the turn, as I like to call it, but we just had Jay Skinner's wedding on Saturday night, and him and Ashley are currently on their honeymoon, but I got a lot of fun video clips from the wedding and the reception.
Hopefully not too fun.
Real cute stuff.
Did you catch the bouquet well?
No, I don't recall there being a bouquet, but I was on a race to get out of my wool suit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
he was the officiant.
I saw that. Very cool.
But I got the one. I think I have two favorite captures on my phone, and one was me and Marcus dancing to "I Want to Dance with Somebody," and then the other one was Jay and Ashley's first dance, and Jay had Adeline in his arms, and then he went to hand her off to Ashley, and then he handed her off to Ashley, and then Adeline immediately like reached out and like put her arm around both of them and like pulled them in real close. It was
a good moment.
Pretty much the most adorable thing I'd ever seen in my life, and very glad I got that moment on camera. Man, this place that they had their wedding, no joke, it was named appropriately. When I first got the invitation, it said Ashland City, and I live West Nashville, Bellevue. I'm like, no big deal. Ashland City's like 15 minutes down the road. Nice little drive down River Road. And then I get in the car and I start driving down the road and I turn on the GPS and it's like 49 minutes. And I'm like, what? And you like go to Ashland City and then kind of bypass it a little bit and then just keep going. And it's like almost Pleasant View, pretty much as far as you can go and still have an Ashland City address.
Yeah.
And then you pull off onto like a 1-lane road basically. And then that road turns from pavement to gravel. And then you're winding and winding and the GPS starts telling you to do all sorts of crazy stuff. And funny. So Jay and them, and I'm pretty sure it was actually Jay and them and not the venue, there were signs up that said not this way, wedding, this way. Yeah. And they were, I think it was Jay and them because it was in Arkansas letters. It was like maroon Arkansas letters. But yeah, I eventually like had to turn off GPS because she was like, make a U-turn. No, take a left. No.
GPS will get mad if you don't follow it.
But the place was called Hidden Creek. I pulled in and saw the sign that said Hidden Creek, and I was like, okay, well, that makes a little sense. And then, go figure, Tennessee weather, like, they had been planning this entire time. Ashley was, like, dead set on an outdoor ceremony. And, of course, the hurricane came through, and the weather looked abysmal. So we rearranged everything to have an indoor ceremony inside the space where we were planning on having the reception. And then, about an hour and a half, 2 hours before the wedding, it stopped raining. And it didn't start again until after dark. Yeah. It was that was interesting. We had been scrambling, putting up tarps and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it was a good time. And congratulations to Jay and Ashley. And please enjoy your honeymoon. I saw some pictures from them. They went to Garden of the Gods out there. They're in Denver, and they went to Colorado Springs and stuff. So they're having a good time.
Cool.
Nice.
But yeah, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after.
don't like human noises anyway, so it was like hard for me.
Well, Shawn and I had a conversation at the MCO, I think on like day 2 or something in the morning, and we kind of, I think, or it might have been on day 1 when I gave you Sarah's shirt, and you were like, "What is this, a handkerchief?"
Shirt.
Yeah.
And
Thank you to Scott Lewis at Heiser Flip Disc Golf for
Yeah.
making me a crop top.
yeah, big
That's
shout
all I
out to
wear.
Scott in
Yeah.
Heiser Flip. I didn't get a chance to, well, I forgot to mention Heiser Flip in the recap me and Jay did, but another big thanks out to them for sure for always
Yeah.
keeping everybody looking fresh at the MCO. But yeah, we got into a little conversation. I was like, I know what, like just from talking to Sarah, I know what she's going through, and he was like, and God bless you, Shawn. You know, he definitely did not bitch about it whatsoever. He was just like, no, she's. I mean, it's got her completely out of whack, and you know, and I know that had to be difficult for the Sinclair household all around, but.
Challenging at times.
Sorry.
I gotta say though, I am sublimely impressed by you, Sarah, because through the midst of all this, not only have you been really, as we mentioned, extremely productive, but you've also been incredibly transparent, and you've been really open about what you're going through, and that's the kind of thing, you know, we've talked about it before. For disc golf athletes, that's how you develop a following. It's not necessarily how well you play. Of course, if you're Chris Dickerson and you win the USDGC, and
That helps.
yeah, that helps. But you know, we mentioned there's so many personalities within the world of disc golf that have huge followings and aren't always putting up the biggest numbers. And so you've got so many projects and things that you've got your hands on, and it's all out there for everybody to see. And you've kept right on up with that. And I know just from being like in a promotional capacity for disc golf and how active you have to be on social media to keep things moving and keep everybody's attention, I know what a test that can be. And when you've got life stuff happening, and when you feel burned out and overwhelmed and all that stuff, how hard it is to just get motivated and feel any kind of interest whatsoever in pushing forward and being creative and trying to engage with your audience. I have a little bit of knowledge about how hard that is, but you've continued to come up with new ventures and get more active across the board and all sorts of stuff, particularly in something that has become quite a sensation on all the social media, is the Respect Her Game campaign. And
Yeah.
you are very closely connected with the very foundation of that whole movement. So I know, as everybody's probably familiar at this point, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the catalyst that got this whole thing started was a lady made a post on discgolfforwomen.com talking about some comments that she had observed on...
What's happening?
Hashtags on the screen.
Oh, yeah. Hashtag
Oh.
Respect Her
Respect your
Game.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you...
I was like, is there a fly?
I was doing my Vanna White.
You got
Yeah, I
some?
thought it
You
was
got
like-
something to say? But no, that it was some really crude, misogynistic, sexist comments that were being posted on Jomez content that was being posted to promote women. You know, they have their Women Who Crush Wednesday series or whatever. And she had reached out with no response to Jomez to get comments removed. And in no way do I want to throw any shade at Jomez or you know, I know how many comments they get, and I also know that at this point they have taken measures to rectify the situation. So make sure that that's said. But obviously women's issues within the sport have been kind of a pretty key topic of conversation for some time now. So was that really the straw that broke the camel's back, where that was what it took to get everybody kind of arm in arm to really make a push to change some opinions and change some ways of thinking about women's disc golf?
Yeah, I'll just go back to something you said at the beginning of the question about vulnerability. Is these issues have been happening like way before social media. I mean, just in society in general, just women being catcalled, whistled at, not feeling safe walking down the street in front of a group of men, those sorts of things. And obviously disc golf is not immune to that sort of thing. And it's actually amplified because the PDGA membership, even though it's grown exponentially every year that we've seen, the women's portion of that membership has continued to be 7%. So we're still growing at a steady rate, but we're
But the
still such a
disparity's growing
tiny,
as
yeah,
well,
we're
yeah.
still such a tiny percentage of the membership. And then, like you have said, there's so many recreational people that play out there that are never going to become PDGA members, never play events, may not even know who some of the top pros are, but they're still out on the courses, they're still following things on social media. And so who knows, like, what the actual percentage for the ratio of men to women actually is. It's probably more like 93% or 97% to 3%, who knows. So because of that, it's like, as soon as you post a picture or a video of a female on social media, it's like the sharks come out, and you've got the group of men, most men, I would say, who may think what they want, and this is just human nature. Like, everyone's got thoughts about, like, oh, that person looks hot, or like whatever. But people who are kind and not creepy will keep them to themselves. Like, keep the comments to themselves and just keep scrolling. Like, oh, that person looks nice or whatever. Keep scrolling. But then you've got the people who do not know how to operate in a respectful way on social media, that take to the keyboard and make harmful comments against women specifically. And it's just been one of those issues that I would say on the Disc Golf for Women group on Facebook, like, once this topic came to light, the woman's name is Sara Krieg, and she actually lives in Germany. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of a new player. So she's like super excited about the sport, is like, oh, I'm going to follow all these different social media accounts, Jomez being obviously one of the biggest disc golf media accounts. And then she sees, you know, videos and pictures of women throwing, and then all these disgusting comments and nothing being done about it. And that doesn't just happen on Jomez. It happens on, like, if you guys watched, of course you did, before Disc Golf Network came to be, and all of the videos were just live on YouTube. And if you ever looked at the comments, I was a moderator on there
YouTube comments
last year or 2 years
are
ago.
an abyss in all circumstances.
Oh my God.
But, yeah.
Like, luckily there were probably 5 to 10 of us that got the little wrench and who were moderators, and like, we had to jump on those comments super quickly before too many people saw them, because some of them were like disgusting as soon as the women's coverage came on. The men's coverage, not a single word beyond like, oh, that was a bad throw, oh, whatever, he hit like, he should have had that shot, he should have had that putt. As soon as the women gets on, it's like all about what they look like, what they're wearing, how hot they are, what they should fix about their, like, all those sorts of things. And so that's where this has kind of been bubbling near the surface for years. And yeah, so Sara Krieg it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and she was like, we need to do something about this. And so it actually came about, so Katrina Allen's pretty close with the guys from Jomez, and she was like, obviously feeling very close. This was close to home for her, as someone who has been bullied online and on the course for years, and as a female who is on camera, like, way more than me, obviously, and a lot more than a lot of other women, she's getting a lot of flack and a lot of negative comments on social media herself. So she actually talked to Sarah Hokum and Vanessa Van Dyken, and then reached out to me, and we were like, let's do something about this. So then we got into the page, and Sarah kind of took the lead as far as creating a hashtag, and then decided that they, unfortunately, I had to drop out of women's nationals, but they decided they wanted to do kind of a campaign on site where people wore the Respect Her Game shirt. And so you'll notice that a lot of people, men and women, wore the shirt on the first day of USDGC and Women's National Championship. But the day before, on October 6th, we armed people, men and women, supporters of this campaign, with kind of a social media toolkit. So they could change their profile picture, their Facebook cover photo. We gave them some sample videos for things that they could post online. And the whole thing is just, we want to be respected for our skill, our athleticism, our game. And we gave tons and tons of tips on our website about, like, you know, don't say you throw far for a girl. Like, no, it's just, I throw far. Like, I just throw far, period. Mm-hmm. Or like, man, I really threw that like a girl. Mm-hmm. Or like, I Nancy'd that, or like things like that. It's just derogatory. It's just unnecessary. And you never know, like, the effect that makes over time, especially in such a mentally grueling sport. And just hearing like negative comments about yourself like over and over again as a top pro, like how that can really affect your mental game.
It eventually becomes an ingrained culture. Like,
for sure.
A systemic thing.
Yeah.
And I want to, with all due respect, interject real quick, because you said a couple things that I would like to touch on. One, you say she catches a lot of flack, she gets a lot of negative comments. I want to point out that this is Sara being incredibly nice and polite and forgiving to you animals, because when she says negative comments and flags, what she means is Katrina gets a lot of really incredibly, like, mind-bendingly inappropriate messages and comments on anything that she's mentioned in or featured in, as do you, that does any woman who competes even moderately successfully in the sport or promotes herself. I think that, and I know, and it's very unfortunate, but in the same way that, like, if you get 100 people in a room, one of them's an asshole. And in the same way with, like, Katrina or any woman in the sport, the more followers you get, the greater the percentage of assholes there are in that number. And when the things you specifically mentioned, like you throw far for a girl, or I really Nancied that, or those kinds of things, I think, because I know that you've gotten a lot of really surprisingly negative feedback from just really insensitive and kind of obtusely thinking men on this campaign, where men are reaching out and arguing the entire basis of the campaign and what it's for. And in their arguments and in their commentary, it's clear that they are totally missing the point. And the problem is that we men are so, like, everybody is so polar, like worked up and looking for something to be triggered about, whether it's, just the climate that we're living in politically and in the media. So, and then when you add social media, which seems to give everybody some kind of misguided sense of anonymity, and then, YouTube comments are even worse, because you can't just click on that person and find out all kinds of information about them. So what I would say that deserves to be pointed out, and I think that more men that understand what's going on here need to be more vocal about it. And I've been rolling a long post or a video in my head around for several days since this whole thing started, because I think for most men, it's so completely foreign to them to put themselves in the shoes of a woman and really understand what you guys face on the disc golf course and otherwise.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's not just on the disc golf course. Episode 7 we had with Callie and Erica, they were talking about that very day they were at their campground and they needed to move their camper, and there was a bunch of guys standing around watching them, laughing and trying to mansplain them. And it's like, and it's everywhere that women go. And for me, male role models were in short supply for me growing up, and I was raised by the women in my family. And it could be speculated on what, like, maybe there weren't a lot of role models around my family because it was so full of such strong, independent women. But I was raised by my mom, my aunt, my grandmother, and a bunch of female cousins. And so it's like the only people that I was ever able to count on were the women that were around. And I kind of got to understand at a very young age, like, the difference, like, there, and be more considerate of what they were going through, and seeing it more closely, just being with them exclusively. So I think the whole thing boils down to awareness. One, men need to be aware of what you guys actually go through. For us, we get to go out to the disc golf course and completely disregard everything about our lives and say whatever we want with our buddies, and completely escape for a while and walk around and not have a care in the world and not have to censor ourselves and all this stuff. Women don't get to do that, because most of the time if women do come out to a course to play, they end up playing with a bunch of men. So now they're not around their peers where they can have that escape and that moment to be free of societal constraints, like in the patriarchy, if you want to really get controversial. But not only do they not get to have that, but they have to be subjected to the things that we say to each other, because we just don't seem to have any kind of a social barometer when it comes to there being women
Some
around.
don't. Well, I will say, so Shawn and I built the website, and so because the other women were competing at the Women's National Championship, and I had access to the back end of the website, we have a contact form on there. So I was getting all the submissions and didn't want to bother the other women, like, sending them. And I'll say 1 out of maybe 25 submissions that I got were negative. And it did, I mean, I'm just going to say that there are men and women, some pretty top women in the sport who do not support the campaign. And some of it is just from ingrained misogyny, and that's something we're not going to be able to change at this campaign. What I have been very kind of like having positive thinking around is all of the men. I would say that 80% of the people who submitted a contact form on the website were men, and most of them were like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was an issue. Or if I see something or hear something from another man, either on social media or on the disc golf course, like, I'm going to do a better job of standing up for those women. Or my wife plays, or I've got 2 daughters that are getting into the disc golf realm, and you guys are paving the way and making it a safer, better place where women are being objectified and they're valued as athletes versus sexual objects. So those were the types of things that I was like, man, this is really making a positive impact. And I'm just, the people that we're not going to be able to change with this campaign are those people who were, grew up with, we all did. I mean, I did too, just like misogyny, and like victim blaming, and, oh, she's wearing something revealing and therefore she deserves to get assaulted or have negative comments about her, things like that. And that's really not okay. And there are women out there and in the sport who do not support the campaign because they have this ingrained misogyny, and we can only educate and kind of create awareness around this. But those people, I'm just like, all right, cool, you're not our audience then. And the people who really do want to change and be more aware of this situation are the people that we're speaking to. So I've been feeling very positive about the direction that it's going in.
It's making a huge impact, and just like with running a tournament, you're going to get that fractional percentage of negative commentary, and then by and large, it's just like the MCO we just went through. There was a bunch of people making posts on Facebook about the payout and the players pack and whatever else. Couldn't get a refund, missed my tee time, got an 888, whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, there were way more posts of people saying, competed in my 4th MCO and made this leap in the standings and stuff.
Focus on the positive,
And it's the same kind of thing. But when I speak to awareness too, it's not just like awareness of the situational like circumstances behind all this, but it's also awareness of our own selves, because whatever your gender, age, background, we're disc golfers. We're supposed to be a family. We're supposed to stick together, and we need to be aware of behavior that we're displaying that is creating uncomfortable and threatening situations for anybody else. It's like there are so many places where parents feel their kids aren't safe to go play disc golf, or women don't feel safe to go play disc golf. And it's, and we're making a lot of progress here. And I think people everywhere are making a lot of progress, and largely due to this kind of campaign. But like, I know, as sensitive as I am to the issue, I know there are insensitive and crude things that I say, because I tend to have a somewhat crude sense of humor. But I mean, I know for a fact that I've said things in the presence of women that are, a little bit borderline crude and insensitive. But thankfully, most of the women that are around me know my heart and know that I'm not that person. But by and large, you show up at a league or something like that, you're around a bunch of strange guys, and then without fail, a new woman shows up at a league, and everybody starts acting.
The sharks come out.
Yeah, they start acting like wild animals, and I can't imagine that men are fully understanding what it is that you guys actually have to deal with, because I think if more men did, there would be far less negative commentary, and men would be more like, oh my God, this is unacceptable. We have to do something about this.
Well, I honestly think it's hindered the growth of women's disc golf. I mean, just like you said, if like a woman shows up and feels she shows up to her first league night super excited because she's been playing casually and is like, man, I want to compete and meet new people. And if she feels uncomfortable that first round, she's probably not going to come back, and then she's definitely not going to become a PDGA member and play other tournaments. Yeah, she's probably like out.
It seemed like part of that campaign also was people are like critiquing form, like not just negative comments, but they're like, oh, I see you need to work on this or something, and it's like, no,
I know that happens to guys too, but it's like right. there's a time where I could not put up a video of me throwing without some dude being like, oh, you need to bend your back. I was like, did I ask for? And I'm the first person, like, I look for instances for me to stand up for myself because I love doing it. So as soon as that happens, I'm like, nope. And I've gotten better at just like deleting comments and blocking people, but I also love to delete and then screen capture and post.
And never stop, because that consistency and you constantly doing that is going to be something else that makes a huge difference.
Well, it's actually stopped me getting, like, since I started putting up my fitness videos and like I'm sorry, it's 90 degrees. I'm at my own house. I'm going to wear like a sports bra and tiny
Whatever
shorts.
the hell you want.
Whatever. I'm proud of my body. I don't care. So, but I'm honestly very surprised that I have not gotten one creepy, like crude comment. And I honestly think, and I was telling Shawn about this, it's because I put out a vibe that like, it's not going to fly. Like if you say something like that to me, you're getting screen captured, blocked, and it's going to be posted everywhere, and everyone's going to know
Dox
your
this
name.
man.
Yeah. So I feel like women also, part of this too is just women empowering each other to say something. I mean, if you see a comment either, you know, on Jomez again or Central Coast or whatever it is, like you should feel confident and empowered to reach out to that company and be like, hey, these are harmful comments and need to be deleted. And I will say for Jomez, they did reach out to us as a leadership group for the campaign and asked us to do an Instagram takeover that day. So I'm not sure if you guys saw it. I posted it on the Respecter Game website, but I did a 1-minute video just kind of explaining the whole history of the campaign and what we were doing and for the social media takeover. And so they did that, which I was super proud about. And they also said that they're committed to doing a better job at moderating their comments. So I feel really hopeful and positive about the impact that makes too.
The USDGC, they had some of the baskets had the band Respecter Game, like it was national, you know, only major of the year. I mean, major airtime there, so I thought that was good too, because I think a lot of people were watching it, and then you know, if they hadn't heard about the movement, then at least they've heard about it now. They can go look it up.
Yeah,
so
that was a total surprise to me. I saw a picture of, was it Hole One's basket, and I was like, whoa, that was super cool. Yeah. And I shared a graphic because it was like one of my middle of the night graphic projects that I did, but I was like, I wonder how many, like I set up Google Analytics on the website before we launched it because I'm like a super nerd about, I do marketing for a living if viewers or listeners don't know. So I was super nerd out about this stuff. But as of that day, I guess 3 days into launching the website, we had like 24,000 page views.
Whoa.
So today is 1 week that we've launched the website, and I can look it up, but it's probably well over 35,000.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even just that, people going onto the website and looking through the pages and seeing where this came from and what the speaking points are and just getting educated, I think is huge.
Yeah. And I was going to say something to Zach's point about the form.
Mm-hmm.
I've had men say comments of, well, I'm super supportive of the women. Every time I see them, I'm constantly trying to help them and lift them up. And part of the feeling safe and comfortable, I don't know if I've played in a group casually with a woman or more than one woman where someone hasn't said, oh, let me see your grip, or, you know, what disc are you throwing? And one of my biggest pet peeves is women have to throw light discs.
Yeah, true.
I throw all max weight.
Why?
They do not.
Why? Where does that
max
come
weight.
from?
Yeah.
It you know.
Because we're weak.
You go
We have no muscle.
go through a FPO's bag, and I don't even know if any of them throw lightweight. You know, I don't even know if they care about the weight. They throw a disc that works for them. I know when I played, I didn't care about the weight. If it was 175, it was 168. It worked for me, and that's what I threw. So right here, right now, stop saying women should throw 150 class discs. I really dislike that.
Yeah, and just for the men's information, I mean, lightweight disc, if you are not a big arm, a guy at Seven Oaks just recently walked up to me, oh man, check out this 158 Wraith I got. Super excited about it. He's like, I don't have a whole lot of torque with my backhand, you know what I mean? So, and I was like, and that's that kind of thing. And I think a lot of guys aren't aware of what they're doing when they're in those situations. And I think that when a kind of campaign like this starts up, a lot of those guys are triggered and immediately click out because they feel like they're being accused of something, and they genuinely felt like they were trying to be helpful and positive and friendly. And that's the other part of that awareness is like, hey guys, just try and put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Imagine that the woman that you're talking to is your wife or your daughter or your sister. It's like, you know, this is you don't want to make somebody feel
the same thing to you.
Right?
How would you react to it?
Yeah, how would you feel?
And that's one of the best aspects of being able to go out anonymously per se on a course playing with Sara, who's in the top 0.01% of the world
I don't know about that.
for female disc golfers. And, you know, we catch up to a group or a group catches up to us, and it's inevitably all men, and they've got one disc and 7 beers and want to play through us, and then she steps up and crushes one 350, and then they kind of slump back. And
I always love
Yeah.
those moments.
Yeah,
They're really
that's got to be
empowering.
satisfying.
Got him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vindication.
I
you,
just think
you
it's
wish
like-
you could throw like a girl.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
yeah.
I just think it's like self-awareness and emotional intelligence, because if you don't have the self-awareness to be like, oh crap, like I have been correcting every woman that I see on the disc golf course, like, because those are honestly, those are a lot of the messages that I got, like, oh man, I've been doing this and like didn't realize that was offensive, like I'm gonna stop doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, so I got, who knows how many people sent me those messages through the website, but there's like probably multiply that by 100 of those people out there who didn't message me that are like, have that self-awareness now. But then you do have those a-holes who are like, well, I was trying to help her, and like do and don't want to look inside themselves, and they just like immediately take offense to it. And those are the people that we're either gonna have to like keep wearing down with education, and if we don't, it's just like, all right, bye. Like if you're gonna say something negative about the campaign, then like that's cool.
Well,
You
again,
don't-
we're trying to
yeah.
roll a big ass stone up a giant hill
Yeah.
of like ingrained systemic, you know,
misogyny.
It's cultural
Yeah.
at this point. It's like it's a
For
thing
sure.
that we are, you know. So you have to be in everybody's face, and you have to be heavy-handed with it, and kind of like make it a forefront of the conversation. And I understand some people are going to find it annoying and political or whatever else, but I think at the same time too, a lot of people, part of the whole social media age that we live in is people are so unwilling to not only discuss anything with somebody that they appear to agree or disagree with, but we're also so unwilling to accept that we might be wrong about something. We're so like immediately if somebody disagrees with you, it's like, I'm right, you're wrong, and I blocked you. and that's the whole mental kind of approach to the way we interact these days. And
Change is
Well,
hard.
there's
it's very hard.
there's cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
To bring up a thing I was just listening to on a podcast of, you say I was correcting somebody, and then somebody tells you that's wrong, and you know that you've always done that, then you're like, well, I'm not a bad person, I'm not, and then you double down and you're like, oh well, I'll just keep doing that because what I'm telling them is the right thing to do. Like I know I'm better than them, and I can, it doesn't apply to me, type of thing.
I always say,
And-
like, just to him, I'm like, how about you ask me if it's okay? Like, oh, I saw
Right.
something that you could maybe
Right.
change. Like, I know you, like, I don't know, put some context behind it. Like,
Yeah.
and
Or
I'm
hell,
a,
even
I'm
be
a
polite. Just say,
professional-
do you
yeah.
mind if I give you a tip?
That's what I was going to say. Like, I'm a professional communicator, and I work really hard on my delivery of things. Like, we were talking about, we just went to dinner right before this, and I was not, like, a great customer, but my delivery, I was, like, smiling, and I was like, oh, I really wanted the waffle fries and the coleslaw. Like, but I could have said that in a really mean way, and then she might have spit in my food kind of thing. It was
Yeah.
the same thing. It's like, hopefully not. Especially with coronavirus, that would have been terrible.
Oh, God.
But I'm just saying, like, it's all about delivery
Yeah,
too. So
yeah.
it's like you said, go up and say, hey, I know, welcome to the sport. It's been really cool to watch you play over the past few months. Like, I've noticed
Right.
a couple things. Is it okay if I give you some tips? And I mean, that comes
Would,
off
would
way
you be
better than
interested
like,
in some tips?
yeah, that comes off way better. Is like, oh, you're doing this wrong. Like, you need to do you need to do this, this, and this, and then automatically, like, the
Right.
woman's gonna. I've been in those situations with people where I'm just like, I shut down because I'm like, well, now I have so many things to think about, and now I just realize that like my entire game is wrong. It
Yeah,
has helped
then-
me, but
Once you,
it's
I
it's
feel
not
like
you.
if somebody gave you a tip, then you're going to be thinking about that the whole, especially if it was like a tournament.
Yeah, you never
Round.
give
And
anybody a tip
unsolicited.
before a tournament.
yes, that should be your tip of the night.
There you go.
What's that?
Never fix someone's form like before a competitive round.
Oh, that's a rule of
see, I
his.
said that once, right?
Yeah,
to
we
Riz,
talked about that on
he
the
was supposed to go
podcast.
to, Tennessee States, and I told him, I was like, yeah, we can work on your form, but after you play a tournament, because I don't want to be responsible for
Yeah.
anything you try to do during a tournament and bring it back on me. I don't want the bad
Yeah.
I don't want the shade.
1998 Santa Cruz Masters Cup. Had the round of my life, first round, ended up on lead card. Climo's in my group. I'm barely able to even hold onto the disc. I'm freaking out so badly. Tee off, get going. I'm in a groove, making every single putt. De La Viega's 27 holes. They don't play 27 anymore, but back then we played 27. We're 17, 18 holes in, and I'm still killing it, feeling amazing. Walking down the fairway. I'd known Climo for a handful of years now, but we're just walking down. He's like, man, you are putting amazing. He's like, have you been working on your putt? Did you change something? It's incredible. And I'm like, whoa. All right. Yeah. Climo was noticing.
Yeah.
And then I walk up and I've got like a 32-foot putt. And I'm like,
He worked you, bro.
Climo thinks I'm putting good. What's happening?
But you let that get your. People say that kind of stuff to me all the time, and I'm like, I don't play mental games because it doesn't even like affect. I'm just like, thanks.
I've
Yeah.
heard stories
And then I just,
about
like, keep
Paul
going.
Macbeth intentionally doing that to people. Like,
Oh, plenty
hey, man,
of
you're
people
doing
do
real
that.
Good. Yeah.
Plenty of people do that. You just can't let it affect. Like, you can't control what other people are doing. You just have to. You can only control how it affects you. So.
No, it was Ken Climo in the lead car.
Did you make the putt?
No.
Did you make any substitute?
Was I on
hit
the
the
lead
chains?
car
Did
next
you hit the
round?
chains?
No.
You like airball at like 45 degrees. You're like,
But yeah, I mean that's another thing too, though. I mean, we've been doing this podcast for so long, and that's one of the big things I noticed from doing it. It's like a study in interpersonal communication. You get so few opportunities to actually really engage with somebody.
yeah.
And you guys are great because, you're kind of involved in public circles and you've done this before and we're friends. So this is real easy, but we have guests on sometimes where it's like you have to, whatever end of the spectrum they're on, you kind of have to pull them along through the journey.
The one-word answers.
Yeah. But that's the thing is I think
Right.
as we get more involved in the digital age, we're losing the ability to communicate adequately.
Yeah, I know some of us in here are big Rogan fans, and that's one of the points he's always talking about is come talk to me in person. I'm the nicest guy you will ever meet. I love everybody. I'm friendly. I'm nice. Come talk to me. I'll shake your hand after a show.
Yeah.
Don't take things out of context
Right.
on one podcast that some news outlet is using as clickbait, blah, 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 blah. And,
Yeah, especially when they take clips of like 10 seconds, and I mean it's a 3-hour episode. It's
we didn't have these issues back when I was playing.
Yeah.
Right.
We just showed up at the course, and I couldn't tell you who anybody's political views were and what they did last night and who they talked to and what they ate. And
It's weird stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of podcasts, you have a little show that you do that we could probably take a moment to shout out. PDGA Radio.
PGA Radio.
Shout out. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop. We've
one
been
of the-
doing it for, has it been 2 years? Or I think since 2018.
It's been about as long as we've
Yeah.
been doing this.
When did I get that call from Marty when we were playing Crockett disc golf course?
I have no
I don't know when
idea.
it was. It was a few years back.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, fortunately for Steve Hill, he took a new job at UDisc and he loves it. Those guys over there are amazing. We try to shout them out as much as we can on our YouTube channel too.
Yeah.
But because of that, this will be, I guess, in 2 episodes after the Disc Golf Pro Tour event, and we do that podcast. That will be his last. So we're still trying to figure out what iteration number 2 of the current podcast will look like. But this podcast was actually started back in, do you know the year exactly?
No, I was gonna go and look that up, but it was started by Brian Sullivan, who's up in Michigan, and little history on that. It was called PDGA Radio because the term podcast didn't exist,
Right.
and he was just recording it out of his house, and similar to how we do stuff today. But he'd call people on the old landline. I remember calling in a couple of times and talking to them, and he just was doing the first podcast format, but didn't exist, so we called it PDGA Radio.
Yeah, like
Nice.
independent radio programming,
Yeah.
independent talk radio.
But he was putting it up on PDGA.com on the website.
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's it's quite an evolution that's come through. So man, it'll be interesting to see what the future holds for PDGA radio.
I know.
I might know a little something. I might not be.
We don't know. There's no confirmation of any. I don't know.
I'm working pretty hard to support the way it appears to be going. We need to get off of this before we say too much. But Shawn,
either way,
but before I say
I'm gonna miss Steve Hill dearly. He makes me sound like the first. I would be cringing so hard if I went back to listen to probably like the first 10 episodes because I was so nervous. He's ridiculously intelligent and he just has a mind like a trap. So he could be like, oh yeah, when Ricky missed that putt back in like 2014 at that B tier. And I'm just like, what? Yeah. Like, how do you remember that kind of stuff? So he makes me look and sound really good and really kind of help me over the kind of into my comfort zone as far as a podcast host. Cause as you guys know, it takes a while to like get really comfortable and knowing that people are like, I know, I'm like, people listen to this.
I'm gonna probably edit out 5 things.
Or you listen to it, or you watch it, and then you're like, I'm saying.
Yeah, shout out to Ben and Brian. Somebody just randomly walked up to me on disc golf course. Hey, Marcus, you do the podcast, right? I'm like, hey.
That's happened to him and
Jay at Trace Creek.
Yeah.
People do that to me too.
Podcast famous.
Yeah, it totally. But you guys have a video podcast. I'm not even on video, so it freaks me out extra hard. I'm like, they're not supposed to know what I look like.
It took me a long time to get comfortable with the idea because we had gone round and round about it, and I was like, it feels like an enormous amount of pressure to and ultimately because we dabbled with doing live streaming, like we tried to live stream some stuff, and depending on Wi-Fi and all sorts of other different factors, that live stream ends up being kind of shaky, and it requires constant monitoring. And then if you want to interact with the people that are tuning in, which is kind of the point of live streaming, well, then it's super distracting and all that.
Yeah.
But when we got to the point where we're doing what we're doing now, and we turn on the cameras and we hit the record button and we're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's super comfortable. I mean, it definitely takes some getting used to if you haven't done it. But I think it's honestly, and as a fan of the Rogan podcast, I mean, a constant theme on that show is talking about what a valuable and just you can't replace what podcasting is as a platform. There's nothing more honest. There's nothing more real and uncensored. And it's like, we can actually get together here as friends. Yeah. And we have our affiliations and we have our own stuff that we have going on, but we can actually give our opinions on something and highlight issues that need to be talked about in a way that's not disruptive and divisive. And it's, the more stuff like this that people do, the more that tone that exists in social media where it's constantly argumentative, it's constantly debate, the more that'll start to change. And that's why it's so important that people do podcasts and take what opportunities we have to engage in our own self-produced, honest forms of media. That's what's going to change the
I don't know if was it Rogan that said people's attention spans are 15 seconds or 3 hours.
Yeah.
Basically,
I'm the 15-second one.
Well, yeah, social media can sometimes be like 15 seconds, but then you can listen to an entire podcast. And
it's the long format interview instead of clickbait, titles or quick little sound bites or the news media that we see where there's 3-4 people lined up and they each get to talk for 5 seconds and they all talk over each other, and then 2 minutes goes by and the host is like, all right, we got to go to commercial.
And there's 2
Nobody said
bars.
anything.
There's 2 scrolling bars, and you're like, I don't know where to look.
And that's something to be said for Steve Hill because he's an excellent host and interviewer. And I've been in journalism most of my life. I was competing in scholastic journalism in middle school and high school and stuff, and I did a bunch of different kinds of journalism type stuff, and thought my life was going to go that way for a significant period of time. But I'm not an interviewer. I would much rather let's have a couple icebreakers to really get things flowing, and then let's just see what happens, because people are so much more nuanced. And I think another important thing about podcasting is you're not just doing the headline, you're not just doing the soundbite, the click, what's going to get you the click. It's let's really paint a picture of what this person is and really understand them outside of just this one particular criteria or context that we're trying to present. And we're constantly doing better and then doing worse and then doing better, but
It's an art for sure. Because I also have a degree in journalism too, and I also hate public speaking. So having the camera on is fine, but if you were to put like a group of 20 people in front of me, I would not be comfortable at all. So the podcasting thing kind of bridged that gap between like, okay, I'm still kind of public speaking, but in a private, comfortable space for me. And that did take a lot. As a journalism major, I was always more into writing and different types of media, not the speaking part of it. So that still kind of freaks me out. But Steve Hill, I mean, it's an art, and I'm really sad to see him go, because I always tell him that, I think people kind of got caught onto the show when we first started it because they followed him over from it was the Ultiworld podcast.
Ultiworld.
Yeah. And we got so much feedback that was like, oh man, I really enjoyed you on that podcast. Like I'm so excited for PDJ Radio. And then I was just like this new person. And I think people like me now from the feedback that we're getting. But really, I think it all started off just really successfully because of the following that he gained from just how his in-depth knowledge of the disc golf world that he's acquired over the years. So I'm going to miss you, Steve.
Well, and your perspective is highly valuable too, and I'm glad to hear an indication that maybe it's going to continue with you, because that's having that loud female voice and perspective in that, that stage. Well, no, I didn't mean loud in volume. I meant
I know.
Visible.
Unless the PDGA fires me, I think I will still be involved in the next iteration. Yeah, that's
good news. Because like every year, 5 more disc golf podcasts pop up. But PDJ Radio is definitely one of the handful that I listen to consistently.
Thank you.
So
the theme music, that's how I know if I listen to podcasts enough when I hear that.
Yep.
Wasn't that originally from...
That's the original music that Brian Sullivan made.
Yeah.
The funky bass.
Yep.
I'm like, when I hear that, I'm like, it's time for PDJ Radio.
That's right.
When we just recently changed our kind of whole format, it was briefly an idea of coming up with some new theme music, but it's kind of grown on us, and it was something that was a piece that my buddy composed, and I was like, I got a kick out of it because the entire music is based around like the error tone on Facebook. Like if you try to click on something you're not supposed to, it goes bloom, bloom. And so the whole beat is based around that tone. And I'm like, that's just kind of thematically appropriate for this show, because we're always pushing stuff that we're not supposed to be pushing.
Exactly.
And then witnessing the aftermath.
Sound test, take 100.
We're getting a little bit late, and I know you guys have a long drive to get back to Mount Juliet. So we'll start winding it down. But Shawn, you and I have a little project coming up together, and this is kind of a really interesting... it's late notice, and it seems pretty ambitious, but I'm down to go anywhere with you, sir. So let's talk about it a little bit. What is this new venture that we're about to embark on together?
Cuban cigars. Just kidding.
New bad habit,
hand roll,
everybody.
Yeah.
So the PDGA was contacted by USA Ultimate. They're really in a bind with the COVID stuff because their events are typically large team events and hundreds of people, so they don't conform to any of the executive orders in any cities.
Yeah.
So they've kind of been dead in the water, and we're looking for ways to keep their players engaged and throwing discs. And so they reached out to PDGA to say, hey, can we run some sanctioned events? And we were like, yeah, go right ahead. Here's the sanction agreement. Well, they don't have
a response. I've gotten that one a time or two back in the day before I made powerful friends.
But, all joking aside, they don't have any sanctioned tournament directors.
Yeah.
They don't have the experience. So we've decided to partner with them and do a handful of test events kind of in the southern states in the month of November. And we're going to use it as a tool to kind of train some of the USA Ultimate directors on how to run a tournament and, get into tournament manager, digital scorecard, learn all the ins and outs of how to run an event. So come spring, if, they're still not able to run ultimate events, they can keep their players going through disc golf. So the idea is we want to run 7, 8 of these events from California all the way to North Carolina, where it'll be 1 day, 1 round, shotgun, or the tee time start, kind of flexible. And the catch is that it's going to be only USA Ultimate approved discs. And so we are trying to connect a well-respected PDGA tournament director, Will, with a USAU director, and that's where the whole learning process comes in. And hopefully we can connect and get these players out here learning, and then the idea is maybe they'll like disc golf too. And so it's kind of rubbing each other's back. Maybe we'll get new members, and people will kind of go back and forth between the two of them. And it's not limited to just USAU players as well. PDGA members will be able to play with an Ultimate disc. Mm-hmm. So I would love to envision in the spring, if we can get some marketing behind this and a little bit bigger, that maybe there's some bigger names. It'd be kind of cool to see a Eagle or Simon or Paul, Katrina, Paige out there with an Ultimate disc playing against some of the best Ultimate players in the world. And of course, we can mention Brody and see how that comes into play, where he could get his revenge on these top big boys using his comfortable tool as well.
Yeah. Well, it's an excellent idea, if not simply for the fact that because of the strange world that we live in right now, I mean, even before the pandemic and everything got all crazy, in all my efforts, I've found that everything is more successful for everybody involved the more people are willing to work together and try to get creative on ways to collaborate. And because, obviously disc sports are becoming unilaterally more popular, but Ultimate Frisbee and disc golf are still very much niche markets and niche industries. And we're going through our own growing pains and then struggling to come to terms with all these new requirements that we're supposed to meet. So it makes sense, especially for Ultimate, because we're experiencing so much success under COVID regulations and stuff. But I think I think the ultimate goal is to cultivate a greater appreciation of disc sports as a whole, and have more disc golfers that are throwing lids from time to time, dabbling in Ultimate, and vice versa. Obviously, you mentioned Brody making his transition into disc golf, and he's known as an Ultimate player, among other things. But I think obviously it's not the simplest transition, but it's a logical one, for people to enjoy both activities. It's obviously very, very different to throw a lid than it is to throw a golf disc. And so I think this is kind of meant as a first step in that process of introducing Ultimate players to disc golf, where they're going to play on a disc golf course. And we've chosen one that it's not incredibly long, it's technical, but we're thinking about going to Baby Cane. Mm-hmm. So these players are going to be able to throw their own equipment, and they're not going to be challenged too much on distance. So they're not going to be trying to flex a lid out 450 feet. You know what I mean? They're still going to be able to create the lines and stuff that they're used to, but also get an appreciation firsthand for what the nature of disc golf is, and make it easier for them to start dabbling with the sport, picking up some golf discs, seeing how other courses play and stuff like that. I think, it's one of those baby steps in a way, but it's also, I know that when we announce this and we make posts about it and stuff, and we open it up to everybody, so many people in our disc golf community are going to be like, wait a minute, so you're telling me we're going to play a PDGA event at Baby Cane with lids? And they're going to be like, I'm so in.
I'm so in.
People love Baby Cane.
I think this is going to be insanely...
As a former Ultimate player who can't throw an Ultimate disc anymore.
Spoiler alert, Will, we are announcing it right now.
Oh, yeah, I know. I realized that as I was saying it.
The other cool aspect I think that's going to come out of it is a lot of players around the country may play in a place that might not have big, challenging courses. Mm-hmm. This is a way to still throw hard, throw far, but you're reduced in distance because of the Ultimate disc. So a smaller par 54 style course, where with golf discs, you're out there just throwing putters and shooting 15 down, you know. You go out there with an ultimate lid, and now all of a sudden that course is going to be a lot more challenging. Like you're saying at Baby Cane, there's a handful of par 4s and there's one par 5. With the golf disc,
Allegedly.
But if I'm out there with a big old lid, par 4, par 5 is going to be challenging.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also another benefit that we may or may not be fully articulating in the planning and the appreciation of at the beginning stages of this is that when you verse yourself with lid, like if you can get used to throwing lids, like we throw them a lot in warm up before tournaments and stuff like that. We have a stack of lids we carry around.
Yeah.
The more you throw those, the more you understand about the flight of discs. You know, and it's just like the same way old timers say, like if you feel like your form's a little bit off, play a putter round. Like go out to your favorite course and play with only putters, and it'll kind of just tune up where you're at with your lines and your angles and stuff like that. And I think that this is going to be for ultimate players to get an introduction to disc golf, and then also for disc golfers to have a fun, kind of exciting, entertaining event to play where they're going to inadvertently come upon a greater understanding of the physics of flight of a disc, of any kind of flying disc.
Yep.
So I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm honored that you thought of me to ask to include me, and I'm excited. We're looking at November 21st or 22nd.
21st was
November 21st.
Yep, that's what we looked at.
Cool. I think I just saw a post that the Rutherford anniversary is going to be on the same day, so that's going to be fun. But that's what
It'll work. We have many events.
dude. There's 1,500 disc golfers within a 100-mile radius. There's plenty of
Is that Thanksgiving weekend?
It's the weekend before.
Okay.
weekend before.
Did you see that? See that
Yeah.
look?
Big
I got?
turkey.
Sean's whole life just flashed in front of his eyes. It was like me when I told my
I
wife
can't wait
that,
to see what your all spread is for Thanksgiving. Like keeping
It
track
normally
of the
consists of
macros
like
and-
a tofurkey.
Okay.
I've done that
situation.
once.
No, we don't
We
really.
got a tofu. Oh, almost said it.
Whoa!
Advisory.
Turducken, but add tofu.
We don't really celebrate Thanksgiving. I mostly celebrate having a 4-day weekend. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
The look that came over Sean's face was what I felt like when I told my wife that the MCO had been moved to our anniversary weekend.
Yeah. Shout out to Mackenzie.
Yep, love you, baby. But yeah, man, this is exciting stuff, and I think it's just another example, another testament to people really getting creative and taking these weird ass circumstances that have been forced upon us and kind of trying to find a way to continue, you know, being innovative and pushing the sport forward in spite of it. And I mentioned this a little bit on the last episode, but in a lot of ways, like the Music City Open this year, in a lot of ways it felt like a loss because it wasn't as extravagant. We didn't have all the bells and whistles that we normally add to it, all the extracurriculars, but you know, it was the biggest it's ever been.
Yeah.
614 players, and it was the smoothest it's ever run. So while there are a ton of wins, it's still hard to cope with that loss of like the grandeur, I
The
guess,
community
and the presentation of it.
and the other.
Yeah,
stuff.
and the involvement and like being able to have everybody there to see how awesome it was, and
The anticipation and the build-up,
Yeah.
being surrounded, you know, of the NT elite status, and then it all taken away.
yeah, I mean, I really honestly, the biggest part of me feels like it happened exactly the way it needed to happen, and everything worked out the way it was supposed to. By and large, that's what I feel in my heart of hearts, and I still got to go out and run a big ass tournament with my friends.
And
And-
shout out to Pete Christ. Is that
Yep.
The-
Pete, Chris. Yep.
we
Thanks,
challenged the tea time making features of PDGA, and they helped us out. I was like sending Shawn a bunch of messages and Pete emails, and Todd Lyon was in there too. Our 614 person event was challenging the tea time, and they were working. Basically, they had an update during MCO,
The
Mid-
Tournament
mid
Central
MCO.
software,
Yeah.
like middle of the first day.
but it's so much easier even than Tournament Manager.
Yeah.
Like Tournament Manager is much easier than the old Excel spreadsheets.
Oh yeah.
But this new Tournament Central is even easier than Tournament Manager.
But
So
we were an early adopter of that. Not a
Yeah.
lot of tournaments are really utilizing it yet, and we used it, and we were really excited about
Yeah.
it, feeling really good about it, and then the update dropped on day one.
But we got it, and we
And-
got those jokes of like, our tea times, did you mean 4 p.m. Pacific they're going to be posted?
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, no, Australian time.
All's well that ends well.
Yeah,
it all
it
comes
does.
out in the wash. Shawn, Sarah, thank you guys so much for making the trip across town.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
having
having
us.
us.
Yeah, this is always awesome. I love having homies in the Sapphire Lounge for
That's
a
what this
nice,
is called.
a nice fire.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
this is
telling
the
me.
Sapphire
Welcome
Lounge.
I love
to the
it.
Sapphire
We were trying to
Lounge.
figure out a name for the studio, and then I did a giveaway of some prototype discs, and I had a Sapphire in
Oh,
there.
that's right.
Yeah.
And then when I said it, Marcus started dropping the Sapphire
Live
Lounge.
from the Sapphire
Or was that
Lounge.
you? It was one of you.
I was probably
One of the
dropping
both
a
of
beat.
you probably
Yeah, that's
created
right,
it. Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
You're the first beatboxing doctor I've ever met.
Live from the Sapphire. Sapphire.
I would totally jump in on that, but Shawn always makes fun of my beatboxing, and I don't know, embarrassed.
No.
Box free
I'll
zone.
mute,
See?
I'll mute his microphone right now.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Hey, I have one more quick
first
announcement.
rule.
Yeah, you guys
Sapphire
plug
Lounge.
anything and do and mention anything that we haven't covered. For
So
sure.
my birthday's coming up November 1st, and right around then I'll be doing so let me rewind. Because of COVID and canceling plans and all of that sort of thing, I had to cancel my annual charity mixed doubles event that I always hold in Columbia, South Carolina, where I used to live. And it's a throw pink event, and it raises money for the South Carolina Cancer Alliance, and it's my baby, and it's like the best day of the year to me, and tons of other people, and it had to be canceled, unfortunately. And because of that, we're actually one of the top donors. Our event is one of the top donors to the Cancer Alliance, and I felt really terrible about that they weren't going to get any kind of fundraising benefits from us for a year. And so I'm working with one of my sponsors, Disc Baron, and he just got the discs a few days ago. A whole bunch of different Innova molds and plastics. I'm sorry, I keep touching the cord.
It's a problem with these cables.
I'm like
We're getting new
I'm
ones.
gesturing a lot with my hands.
We have that kind of haphazardly draped over your
I'll
stand
sit
too.
on my
That's our
hands.
fault.
But he just got the discs custom stamped, and we'll be selling them straight from the Disc Baron website. And then we're going to do some sort of like birthday themed fundraiser right around then. So stay tuned for that. We're also going to do some raffles. We've got a mini Zuka cart, I think an Innova Hero bag, and then also signed discs from Katrina Allen and Austin Hannum. So we're doing raffles so we can raise as much money for the Cancer Alliance in place of the event that I normally have in the spring. So watch out for that in a few weeks.
You heard it here, folks. I know a lot of you that follow the show are have your own businesses and retail outfits and stuff like that. So if you would like to donate to the fundraising efforts of the South Carolina Cancer Alliance through our friend Sara Sinclair, get in touch with us, and we can point you in her direction, and they could use all the support they can get.
Awesome.
I
Thank
think
you.
that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to cancel a bunch of our fundraising stuff. We had a fundraiser event for TSB that we were going to do in October, and that ended up having to be pushed to spring tentatively. So, see how that goes.
Yeah.
Weird times.
This is your
Sure.
chance.
Yep.
Help out. Buy a disc.
That's right.
So one more time, you guys, get Gritty Nutrition. Join the Grit Squad today. Sinclair Disc Golf on YouTube. Like, follow, subscribe, share.
Ring that bell.
Watch out for giveaways.
Yep.
Also, feel free to comment and reach out to us with your ideas. We'd love to hear them and suggest courses that you want us to go play.
We've got a 500 subscriber giveaway going right now. The post has kind of been pushed down on my Instagram because I do post all my content all the time. But I've been trying to post it to my stories every other day. But it's a Halo Destroyer signed by Garrett Gerthy and Jessica Weiss. And as soon as we hit 500 subscribers, we'll pick someone who has commented on that post to win that disc.
Along with a Music City disc generously donated by you guys. So thank you for that.
Nice.
Yeah. So so my Instagram is, I just changed the name today. Let's see if I can remember it. Another middle of the night idea. It is frisbee.food.fitness.
Boom.
The three
three
most
Fs.
important things in life.
Exactly. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, this sums me up, all my content
Yeah.
up pretty well. But check that out.
Trifecta.
Yeah, look for my
Triple
post.
I want to see a downtown Nashville take one basket down there and set up a course on Broadway and just throw a disc here, throw a disc there, and keep moving it around.
We
got
should have
friends-
done it
Pedal
like during the
tavern
shutdown
disco.
when no one was there.
Knock some bachelorette off of a pedal
Oh,
tavern.
please,
Got a
I can't
friend
see
who's
that.
like the manager at the
Put the
Grand
disc
Hyatt.
on the pedal
Hey,
tavern.
but respect her game. I mean, knock her off the pedal tavern, but respect her game. Little joke.
Put the disc on.
But no, back to the respect her game stuff, man. In closing, I want to say, you guys, be good to each other. Just be excellent to one another, man. We're a family. We're all in this to enjoy the game and enjoy the outdoors and enjoy life together. And let's spend a little less time arguing and a little bit more time thinking of putting ourselves in each other's shoes and trying to make our way through this thing together. I swear to you, it's easier when we work together, and it's more enjoyable too. Heard?
Boom.
Preach.
Here.
Concur?
Mic
Yeah.
drop.
I concur.
Marcus, you've been really quiet tonight. You got any closing thoughts?
Oh, what do I have? Oh man, I totally forgot. I bombed this one. So my baby mama and my son, they all came out to disc golf course and they were trying to find something to do. What do we do for families at big tournaments? So we're talking about like growing the sport, you know.
Cornhole?
That's
Nothing
definitely
yet.
something like I
Childcare.
think
Mini
that,
disc
you know,
golf.
If we have like at Cedar Hill, they got this great park over there. If we could set up some baskets by the park, some information, maybe 1 or 2 golfers out there, you know, that the families of the disc golfers can
Yeah.
congregate, meet each other, you know, have a spot where they can go to, where they can actually understand what's going on, as opposed to Tournament Central where they have no clue what's going on.
Yeah,
You
if
know,
you walk
you
up to
don't-
Tournament Central, you're like,
Right,
"Whoa,
you don't
this
you don't
is-"
want your family in the way. You know, my son definitely wanted to come, but he can't be at the.
That
Two
was
blocks,
definitely
man.
something
He's
Marcus
too
and
cute,
I
someone
talked
would steal
about.
him,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
for sure.
Like I would.
But we
You
were
wouldn't
thinking
see him
about,
anymore.
you know, putting some volunteers or some staff over by the big playground over there at Cedar Hill and setting up a couple baskets and just have some people there to, with some water and be able to talk to the parents about disc golf and what's going on at the park. I think that's a great idea. We
Yeah.
talked about that a little bit.
And something I've advocated to all majors, National Tour, elite TDs is at Tournament Central, front and center, set up a tent that's a information booth.
Yeah.
You know, think about any large sporting event you go to. There's, you know, you go to the airport, you look, you know, you don't know where you're going, you look for an information booth.
Yeah.
You know, have handouts, have someone that's like, oh, this is how you get to hole 17. Oh, this is where the restrooms are. Oh, here's where the
Concierge.
yes, here's where the food trucks are. You know, blah 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 blah. Just, you know, have an information booth would be super helpful.
I like it.
Yep, all being currently logged in the mental notes as we speak. Something I wanted to shout out real quick before we close up. The 2020 Trilogy Secret Santa is currently underway. So you guys can go to, there is an official 2020 Trilogy Secret Santa Facebook group. You can also find information about it on the Latitude 64 Dynamic Discs and Westside Discs fan page. And there's a Google document to get signed up, and it's just basically you get paired up with somebody and you lavish gifts upon each other. And it's lots of fun. And you can support our sponsor, Dynamic Disc. Thanks, Dynamic Disc.
Is it like Pink
And shout
Ele-
out to Jason Wilder, who's part of heading
Is
that
it
up.
like Pink Elephant where you try to get something funny or
People get creative.
Scary movies or comedies? Both of you.
1,000% scary.
1,000% opposite of that.
I'm a little. I appreciate both, but I get way into the scary
The
I
stuff.
have a dark side.
The
Yeah.
Notebook or Titanic?
Titanic, for sure.
Never seen either.
I saw half.
Keep it that way.
I saw half of the Notebook and was like, "This is not for me."
Oh, dude, have you checked out this new show on Netflix called Evil?
I have not.
Dude,
I have so many. Oh my gosh! I have an entire list on my phone of all the content I need to watch on Netflix. It's like very overwhelming.
it's the guy that played Luke Cage on the Luke Cage Netflix series for the Marvel series where he's like Power Man. So it's him and a bunch of other actors, but it's like this guy is like training to become a priest, but he works for the Catholic Church assessing miracles and possessions and trying to determine if they're worthy of exorcism. And so this girl that's like a psychologist and she has worked for the DA's office and stuff in court settings goes to be a consultant, like a psychological consultant with him. And this other guy who's like a tech expert and tries to, you know, he's like a skeptic and all that stuff. And it's creepy.
Ooh,
You should check it out. You should
I
check
will.
it out.
I
This is
will.
Netflix.
Here's one for Marcus.
Yeah.
There you
Great British Bake Off or Nailed It?
go. Bake Off.
Have you watched it?
No, I just love food. I'm a big food.
All we watch is the Food
Yeah.
Network.
No.
Interspersed with like super creepy things when he's not around.
The late night viewing.
Yes.
If you were a crayon, what color would you be? To both of you.
Oh, I had a color question. Dang it, you stole my color question.
My favorite color is like, so what earrings am I? Okay, so basically like this color, like teal turquoise.
Nice.
That's basic, that or like dark purple.
Well, you and Jay have teal in common. Have you ever seen him riding his motorcycle at night?
He has a motorcycle?
No, yeah.
No.
And
But
it,
we did
Yeah.
get the same car recently.
it glows teal. Like at
that
night.
sounds amazing.
It like
I know where he
blasts
lives too.
teal.
We
Yeah.
should go over there after this.
Hey,
We're not too far. He's not home, right?
if you were a
Yeah.
crayon, what color would you be, Shawn?
No clue. I'd be the rainbow. I've never had a color.
Isn't he weird? He's never had a
Nothing.
favorite color.
Sorry.
What color would you? I'll be royal blue.
Yeah, I was gonna assign
Cats.
him like
Super
Shawn's
blue.
gray.
Go Cats.
I'm that color when you mix all the paints together.
on your
It's
palette.
called
Suicide?
brown.
Beige.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's called like
beige is
graveyard.
like poo brown.
Yeah,
baby
pea
poo
brown.
brown.
Yeah.
Puce.
Burnt umber.
Puce.
Burnt
Ford or
umber.
Chevy?
GMC.
All right.
I used to have a Ford Escort, so Ford.
Shawn's just going to start being difficult now. We got to let them go home. It's getting past his bedtime.
He's always difficult.
I love you guys. Thanks again for coming out and being a part of the show. And, next time there's a bunch of interesting stuff coming on. We'll have you back.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Anytime.
us.
See you guys.
See
Bye,
ya.
everybody.
Bye.
Let the bass kick.